This is a Dragon Blazer production, and I am the little boogeyman.
All right. Coming down the aisle, it's the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And today we're taking a trip back in time to 1991. And we'll be watching WrestleMania 7. Now, this one's pretty patriotic. This one's the America versus Iraq type of, situation going on with Sergeant Slaughter and Hulk Hogan being the main event. Very patriotic. If you didn't know when WrestleMania really aired, you would think it would air on 4th of July.
Yeah, it is a lot of America here.
A lot of America. So, the cover of this one has literally a cartoony picture of Hulk Hogan with the big old American flag he's holding up and everything. So, this one's just, definitely going towards the war and everything. So it's definitely a product of its time.
Yep. I have more to say, but we'll wait until we get there, because I believe you have something to talk about first.
Yeah, so I guess before we get into WrestleMania 7, I'd like to continue my trip down memory lane with video games as well. And the video game we are going to cover today is from 1991 WWF WrestleFest. Now, this was an arcade-only video game. It consisted of 10 superstars. You could play as
Hulk Hogan, no surprise.
Yes.
Ultimate Warrior.
Yes.
The Big Boss Man, including that belly being exposed.
Yes, you could also play as the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake Roberts. Did we already say that?
Nope.
Earthquake, Mr. Perfect, Sergeant Slaughter, Demolition Smash, Demolition Crush, and of course, the Legion of Doom, Hulk, and Animal. So, 10 playable characters. You had 2 modes. You could either play in the new Royal Rumble mode or the Saturday Night's Main Event mode. Royal Rumble mode, you would pick one player, and you would go through a Royal Rumble match, which basically, essentially, is a battle royal, though, in the video game. Everybody's there. And then the Saturday Night's Main Event, you would choose a tag team partner, and you would go through, I believe, 4 matches until you play the Legion of Doom as the champion, and you can go for the tag team titles.
Yeah, we watched this game, and I'm telling you what, there was a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, for 1991, it's a pretty good game. You gotta realize, back in these days, the arcade games were better looking, and by all means,
like if you played the arcade
home console game.
Yeah, if you played like the arcade version of the Turtles, it was a lot different than the one that was on Nintendo, because
the game itself was typically the same, but the graphics were a lot better.
Yeah,
you went to the arcade.
They had more power for these arcade games.
And I'd say that was probably true for video games up until maybe the PlayStation 2 era. Roughly in that ballpark era, maybe Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube. I think that's kind of when the the consoles kind of caught up with the arcades. But before that, it really was a bigger deal to play a game on an arcade system than it was a home console, because they just simply looked better. And this was definitely very, very similar. If you played in the arcade in the early 90s, the graphics were way more better than you can get in the Nintendo Entertainment System. And then the Super Nintendo started looking better, but then the arcade games started looking better. So it just kind of was one of those. The arcade was always kind of one up on the home consoles.
We had some slightly better sound. We had some voices, and we had a little interview with Legion of Doom that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it didn't really sound like Hawk or Animal, but it was just yeah. You couldn't really understand what they were saying. Yeah. But there was a ring announcer. The ring announcer actually calls out the wrestlers' names, which
and was in the middle of the ring too.
Yeah, it was in the middle of the ring and actually calling out. But keep in mind, back in 1991, that was like a big, oh my gosh, this game's talking. So that was pretty cool.
And then there had Hulk Hogan, when we watched Hulk Hogan wrestle in the ring, and he just pretty much did poses the whole time.
Yeah, so please, definitely, if you ever check out this game, give yourself a couple extra hours, because there is a lot of posing going on. So anybody that knows Hulk Hogan knows you have to have that extra time given, because that is just what he does.
I did a weak left-handed punch. Time to throw those guns out.
Right. So definitely it's worth a play. Even today, it looks really fun to play. I believe we did play this back in the day.
I'm pretty sure I found this at an arcade once or twice and was like, Mommy, give me some quarters.
Yeah, so we've definitely played this back in the day. We YouTubed it just to kind of refresh our memory and to try to remember what playing this game was like. And it definitely looked like one of the funner wrestling games of the time. Blew anything on the NES out of the water.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a trip to memory lane, because I do actually remember this game.
Yeah. So definitely video game fans out there that are also wrestling fans, if you get a minute, check this one out. Definitely worth your time.
I think we need to talk about something. We record these pods. We're recording this podcast a week and a half in advance, before you guys are going to get to hear it. So this is going to have happened about a week and a half ago. But we lost someone huge in the wrestling world just the other day. John Huber, also known as Brody Lee in AEW, and Luke Harper.
Mr. Brody Lee.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Brody Lee. I'm sorry, Mr. Brody Lee.
If you look up his Wikipedia, he actually has two different names. You know how if you look up a wrestler on Wikipedia, it actually tells a list of wrestling names they've gone by, and it's actually listed as Brody Lee, and then there's Mr. Brody Lee. So obviously there's an emphasis on the Mr. during this segment, part of his career. Because that was kind of what they referred to him in the Dark Order. He is Mr. Brody Lee.
It's sad. We just right before we got on the show, we just put on AEW, and we watched a very heartfelt message from Jon Moxley that kind of got me tearing up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. He's a young man that just died. I mean.
Yeah, I believe John Huber was 41 years old. He was born in 1979.
He's only a couple years older than us.
Yeah, so, I mean, and if a guy that can go out there and wrestle all the time, and he can't make it, and he's 41, he passes away at an early age. And I don't know what happened in his personal life. I know he was a family man and everything, so I don't know what caused this. I think there's still a lot of mystery surrounding.
They said something about it being a non-COVID related lung issue.
Yeah, so he had lung issues, but it wasn't COVID related. I don't know anything about his personal life. I don't know if he smoked. I don't know if he. Who knows? I know a lot of these wrestlers get into stuff that kind of shorten their career, but it just kind of feels like, man, like we're getting close to that, and. He's out there wrestling all the time, and he passes away at 41. It just kind of, hits hard when you're close to that age.
And I'm not trying to bring this up for any kind of negativity, but you also got to remember wrestling is very hard on your body. So, I mean, yeah, he was in tip-top shape, but what he was doing, you damage your body. We love it. We love that they do it, but, you know, just like any kind of sports, it can be very damaging for your body. So, you know, it might have been an underlying issue that he didn't know, and being a wrestler might have made it worse. We don't know what happened, but I know I really enjoyed his work. I enjoyed the Dark Order. I enjoyed him. And he was essentially making fun of Mr. Vince McMahon. Is one of the things I heard is that was his character as Brody Lee. He was kind of doing a depiction of Vince McMahon.
You know, I've watched it many times when he was a part of the Dark Order. I remember watching him beat Cody for the TNT Championship, and I never caught on to that. So I don't know. Know if it was supposed to be a big interpretation, but I never caught on to him trying to be Vince McMahon. But
it was something he said in interviews.
Oh, really?
In interviews, he said, well, he was portraying Vince McMahon as the wrestlers saw him, not as you see him on television. He was portraying a version of Vince backstage. So something that he would have intimate knowledge of that we wouldn't have intimate knowledge of is what it was. It was like he was... I enjoyed his Wyatt family work. And when he had that short stint where he was actually a singles competitor, I was enjoying that as well. Maybe not so much when he and Rowan kind of did like... I forget, was the Smash Brothers, or I can't remember what it was, but they had some weird tag team for a short while. But when he was doing some singles work, he was really good. I mean, I just want to say I'm sorry that we lost John Huber.
Yeah, it sucks. So hearts go out to him, his family, the wrestling world. It always sucks when we lose a wrestler because, you know, when you lose a wrestler, you never get to see him again, you know, because you kind of look at older wrestlers' careers, how they get that last match, you know, sometimes at WrestleMania, and you never know. But you kind of look at the future, and you get to see some of these wrestlers be put in different roles after their wrestling career. You know, like Ric Flair, we've seen do Shawn Michaels, Triple H. We've seen all these guys in different... Arn Anderson in AEW, you know, he's doing a mentor role with Cody. And you get to see that, like, see those guys age and do those things. And it just kind of sucks when you have superstars like Brody Lee, Eddie Guerrero, dare I mention Chris Benoit. But, it just sucks when you lose these wrestlers at a young age and you never get to see that progression. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just sucks. I mean, because you never know where their career could have led. I mean, look at, you know, a good example is Drew McIntyre. He was mid-card at best for years. And you never... I know he was considered the chosen one and all this, but he never really got over as a major star until recently. And imagine if we'd have lost him early. Look at the work he's doing. So I guess I'm just pointing out you never know where these careers are going to lead. Some guys take longer to blossom. And that's why I brought up Drew, because I look at Drew as one of those situations that took a while before he became... And now I think he is legit possibly the face of the company. I know they got their top heel in Roman Reigns, and then they got Drew McIntyre as their top babyface. Drew, I think, is a legit, like, superstar, taking over the company. And it just makes you wonder some of these superstars that we lose early... like what might have been, you know what I mean?
Yeah, to a slightly lesser extent, I kind of look at Drew a lot like when Jinder Mahal got his big, he won the title. He was a heel compared to Drew, so his, face of the company was a little different, but, he was like a nobody or whatever for a little while, a mid-carder, and then he roided up. I don't think they roid up these days, so he actually legit got huge, and then became real popular, and now I don't even know where he is.
Yeah, so it just kind of, I guess the reason I pointed out is because Brody Lee, I don't know if he ever reached that height. He never really reached that height.
I mean,
and even in AEW, he hadn't became the AEW champion yet. But the fact that he won the TNT championship, he had this Dark Order stable. It just makes you wonder if,
I think
if he was heading there. And I don't know if losing the TNT championship had anything to do with his health, because he hadn't wrestled since October. So I don't know, like, if he was fighting something. They haven't really
possible.
They haven't really gave us much detail. It's not like with Brody. He was on the program last night, and then the next day we find out he passed away. He was gone since October, but I don't know the reason why. Maybe it had a lot to do with his health, but they obviously, his last match was losing the TNT championship to Cody. So it just makes you wonder where his career was heading, because he'd have been a great heel to go up against Jon Moxley, which I know Moxley's not the champ anymore, but that would have been a good two top tier guys that were, headed towards that,
and I feel
direction.
In AEW he was heading that way. He really was.
And who knows, when you get popular in another program like AEW, once your time's over there, who knows how popular that would have made him in a WWE return potentially.
Yeah.
You never know. So,
but I just know that when I got a notification on my phone that Brody Lee passed away. No, I didn't even get a notification. What I got was I was looking at Twitter, and AEW shared something about him, and I'm like, what? And it seemed like he died, and I'm like, what? And I Google, and sure enough, just like minutes later, they announced that John Huber passed away. And it was just like a slap in the face. I mean, it was like, it's one thing when we hear like a legend passing away at like 70, This is literally a guy who's just on the screen, a huge part of AEW.
And that makes a huge difference, because like we just had Pat Patterson pass away.
Yeah, but
and we that was one of those things where he lived a full life. He was a
legend in the business.
Yeah, it sucked that he passed away, and really, I think he was still kind of young. I'm trying to think. He was in his 70s, I believe. Which, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look it up.
He had a full career, full life.
Yeah,
Brody Lee was 41. I mean, he was still young, very young, and still popular and on the show. I mean, yeah, he hasn't wrestled for a month or two. Couple months,
like I said, that could have
literally was just on the television, and in a very interesting story. Like, he wasn't. It blindsided, I think, everybody.
But I guess it's we've got a big show here. I think 3.5 hours, so we might as well just start getting into it. And the first match of the night. Before we get to the first match of the night. The first thing we get in WrestleMania 7 is it opens up with Willie Nelson. As you pointed out while we were watching, he must have been roughly around 20 years old here.
Yes, and he looked like he was 52.
Yeah, so he definitely ages differently than most human beings, because this man is still alive, and he's looking like an old man in 1991 doing the Merica the Beautiful. So that was definitely cool to see Willie Nelson on here. Can't get more.
It was kind of smoky for some reason. Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Can't get more Merica than that. So that's really cool to have Willie Nelson. And then we get Gorilla Monsoon, and he brings out Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So it looks like Hacksaw Jim Duggan is going to be doing commentating, so we lost Rowdy Piper for some reason.
This is a huge-ass downgrade.
Yeah, so...
I'm sorry, but I'm not a huge fan of Hacksaw's mic work, and now he is literally calling matches. He is telling everybody about how they're tough guys, and some cheating goes on, and he's like, oh, look at him taking the easy way out because he's part of the Heenan family. You take the easy way out every damn match, Hacksaw.
So, the sad thing is I think Hacksaw on the mic for commentating would have really worked if they'd have waited years later during the Attitude Era, because as soon as Godfather came out, that would have really worked out for him. Every time Godfather came out, oh!
Wow,
it just would have
quite the setup for that.
It would have worked out perfectly.
Yeah,
I think so. So, but no, we're going to get into the first match, and before the first match, we do get an interview with the Rockers, and I'm noticing. Okay, so when you see Shawn Michaels talking with like Triple H and everything, you see he's kind of a little bit goofy. And, like, if they're told, so-and-so, Stone Cold Steve Austin or whatever, he kind of does this thing with his fingers like, ooh, I'm supposed to be scary. We get to see a little bit of that, during this interview because, Mean Gene Okerlund mentions, that, the Barbarian, which is their opponents, the Barbarian and Haku, and he mentions that they're part of the Heenan family, so they've got some good camaraderie, blah, blah, blah. So Shawn Michaels and Marty kind of look at each other like, ooh, they're the Heenan family. And I just thought it was kind of great seeing that in the interview, just because we've seen him do that so many times with DX. So to see that he still has that arrogance and that, that little wiggling of the fingers thing going on this early in his career is just kind of neat for me to see, because you just don't remember that kind of stuff. You kind of recognize it now seeing DX all the time. But I just thought that was kind of cool to see that in 1991. That he was doing that kind of stuff with Marty Jannetty. Maybe not as big of an asshole or big of a arrogance, but it was still there, that motion. So that was kind of neat for me to see. But then we get into the match, and this match starts off fast paced. It starts to slow down a little bit, but I thought this was a really fun match to kick off WrestleMania. I enjoyed it. I didn't think there was really anything, but there was maybe one clothesline that was kind of a botch. But outside of that, I thought this was a pretty good match to kick off WrestleMania 7.
I would say it's not as good as their last match we watched.
No.
Was that with the Orient Express?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that match was really good. This wasn't bad. I'm not saying this is bad or anything. I'm just saying if I compare the two, the Orient Express match was a little better. But yeah, this was a decent match. We got some sweet, super kick, or what did they call it? They called it crescent kicks.
No, I think they called them super kicks.
No, they called it a crescent kick.
A crescent kick?
Yes, that's what they called the sweet chin musics that Shawn and Marty Jannetty do in tandem. They called it the crescent kicks.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
I didn't catch that.
I caught that. It could have been Hacksaw that said it, and he just doesn't understand language, so I don't know.
Okay, so, well, if the caveman's saying it, then I guess we should just say, oh yeah, that's what they call it nowadays. Okay.
Ooh,
so
fired.
We should listen to that. But no, I just, of course the Rockers get the 1, 2, 3 here. But like I said, I thought it started off fast, kind of went into a little bit of slowdown period where the Barbarian Haku started getting their, strongman situation, treating it, like they're the strongmen, and it kind of slowed down there. But then towards the end, it picked back up fast pace, and the Rockers get the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, they do. They both jump off the top rope one after the other. Crossbody splash from Shawn Michaels to get the 1, 2, 3. Decent match.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, it might not have been as good as the last time we saw the Rockers on our last show, but this was still a good kickoff.
I guess the way I would put it is, it's a decent match, but it's not like WrestleMania quality decent. Like, it wasn't like WrestleMania quality great. It was just a good
Well, maybe
match.
back then it was, though.
Fair enough. Although we have seen some really good matches.
We haven't got into the WrestleManias where like half the matches are great yet, have we?
True.
Think about that. Like we are from the future. You have to remember that. So you're definitely comparing these matches already to matches that we are not supposed to have seen yet. But
however,
based off of what we've seen in 6 WrestleManias, this is a better match, I think, than a lot of the ones we have seen.
But in fairness, that Rockers match in the last one that we watched was possibly more closer to a WrestleMania quality match.
Fair enough.
So we've gotten some really good matches, but that one wasn't on WrestleMania.
I agree, but this was before that was kind of like half their show was the high flying and the danger, and you know what I mean.
Well, they need to step it up. This is Merica Wrestlemania.
Well, I promise you, it is coming. We have a few years to get there, but it is coming. All right, let's go ahead and move on with the show. Okay, so before we get to our next match, we get an interview with Mean Gene Okerlund, and he is interviewing Alex Trebek, Regis Philbin, and Marla Maples, and apparently they're going to be guest interviewers later on in the show.
I think you said that wrong. It's what is guest interviews?
Dear Lord. So anyhow,
respect the Jeopardy.
So anyhow, we'd also like to point out that Alex Trebek does not know Mean Gene's name, even though Mean Gene said, my close personal friend, Alex Trebek, and he calls him Jim. So I don't know if Jim's a nickname he got called in the backstage area. I looked it up. Mean Gene Okerlund's name is not Jim. It is Eugene. So Gene for short. And so I don't know where the Jim came from unless people call him Jim backstage. So anyhow, after this little interview, we get a match between Dino Bravo with Jimmy Hart and the Texas Tornado, otherwise known as the Southern Ultimate Warrior.
Don't do it.
So, so if the Ultimate Warrior did not come out with paint and was from Texas, this is the Ultimate Warrior. This match was short and sweet, really quick. I mean, it wasn't really a bad match.
It was a match.
It was only 3 minutes and 11 seconds. So I wouldn't call it a bad match, but there wasn't much there.
This was not.
It was just a quick match, and it was done and over with as quick as it started. There was no botches. There was no bad spots. It just was quick.
It just wasn't anything special.
Yeah, so it just kind of was there, and then it was done. Texas Tornado won. But really there's not much more we can say about this match because there wasn't much to say about this match.
I'll forget it existed at the end of this podcast.
Gotcha. All right, so let's keep it going. Okay, so before the start of the next match, we get a very interesting interview with Slick and the Warlord. I don't even know what to make of this.
It was a bad interview.
Yeah, I'd say it probably was a bad interview. No, this was just different. We've heard Slick talk before, but this was...
he talked a little too much?
A little too much, maybe. It was just a little different. Very odd interview here. And then after that, we get an interview with the British Bulldog. Apparently they're making a big deal of, him not being able to break out of one of the Warlord's, full Nelson moves. Which kind of reminds me of when Chris Masters, the Master Lock Challenge and everything. Although this was not a full Nelson challenge. This was an actual match.
Except for this is the first time we've even heard anybody give a crap about the full Nelson.
Right. So that's what, they're making a big deal about, British Bulldog not being able to break out of that. So, now the match comes, and the match I thought was, it was okay. It wasn't great, wasn't special, but it was okay. You got to realize it was a very Power Man versus Power Man type of match. But this is the kind of stuff that happened in Stone Cold Steve Austin's career before he got off the roids. So,
not Stone Cold Steve
it's
Austin.
just kind of funny because a lot of the guys, like, I think of, Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, he got more famous when he got on the roids. He was a great tag team specialist, but he became a, big deal, main event superstar, when he got on the roids. Where Stone Cold, it seems it was kind of a reverse effect. He was on the roids, and he did better off the roids.
We've Googled this many times. You know for a fact this is not Stone Cold Steve Austin.
This is not Stone Cold, jacked up Stone Cold?
Yeah, I believe I've told you this numerous of times.
I'm telling you, it's
as of right now, Stone Cold is rocking some long blonde hair and being very stunning about it.
In WCW. Well, I still think he's playing double duty, and maybe that's a wig over there in WCW.
No.
Yeah, you're right. WCW can't afford the props. So, but anyhow, this guy just looks just like Stone Cold Steve Austin, just with roids. This guy's muscle has muscles, and it's just ridiculous. It's actually kind of surprising he wasn't one of the big heels at the time, like facing Hogan and everything. It just kind of makes you wonder, because this guy was jacked.
So,
he's like bigger than everybody on the roster.
So just because of, his size, you think he should be up there with Hogan? Have you watched his matches?
Have you ever watched a Hogan match?
Fair enough.
So this guy should be main eventing WrestleMania. So, you had your choice between Hogan, Slaughter, some chubby military guy, or jacked up Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I would have picked something else.
You never did have Austin versus Hogan. I don't think it ever happened. No.
Maybe.
No. Nope.
I don't know if Hogan came back from WCW within the time Stone Cold was around.
Yeah, no.
He might not have
actually, he was around at the same time. Rumor has it is Stone Cold refused to do it.
Because Hogan is a douche?
Who knows what the backstage politics were.
Hogan was a douche.
But I'm just saying it would have been good before Stone Cold got, his platform. It would have been nice if they'd have put them together here, so we would have got that match early in Stone Cold's career.
Probably because it would have been the stupidest thing ever, because Hogan would not want to lose to Austin.
So, based off the fact that we're continuing this conversation, you admit that Stone Cold Steve Austin jacked up.
That is not Stone Cold.
That's what I was just saying. You just kept going along with it.
I'm talking about later on.
No, later on he was in WCW when Stone Cold got big. Well, anyhow, so, like I said, this match it is what it is.
Crap.
I didn't think it was crap. It just wasn't
this
special.
Whole pay-per-view so far has been, it's fine. It's fine. It's like when you ask your wife if she's mad. No, it's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. That's what every match of this pay-per-view has been so far. The equivalent of asking your wife if everything's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, but there's deeper meaning to that. It's fine. Is there a deeper meaning to this match being
it's not fine? It's never fine.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to move on to the next match. But by the way, British Bulldog gets the pin here. 1, 2, 3.
Nobody cares.
He does also break out of the full Nelson move, and he does power slams.
He does a running power slam.
He does the running power slam, and he gets the 1, 2, 3 on the Warlord, aka jacked up Steve Austin.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, so before the next match, we have interviews with the Nasty Boys, and we also have interviews with the Hart Foundation, and those were decent interviews, nothing crazy, nothing special. I mean, they were all right, I guess. But then we get into the match. It is for the WWF World Tag Team Championship. Nasty Boys versus the Hart Foundation. And I thought this was a fantastic match. It definitely just reiterates what we've talked about on the show before. How Bret Hart is really head over heels better than most everybody in the company at this time. He's just an amazing wrestler, just does everything, just perfectly. And, I thought this was a really fun match. There was a lot of drama in this match. There was a lot of, good heel stuff going on with, getting the megaphone involved. And to be honest, I know this is a 29-year-old pay-per-view, but I did not know the results of this match, and to be honest, I was shocked to see that the Nasty Boys beat the Hart Foundation to win the WWF Tag Team Championships. I did not realize the Nasty Boys had ever held the WWF Tag Team Championships. And the fact that they beat the Hart Foundation for it at WrestleMania, I just thought that was kind of a big deal. That was crazy.
Yeah, the Rockers haven't even won the titles.
I don't think they ever won the titles.
They don't.
Did they? Yeah, they never win the titles. So I guess I remember the Nasty Boys. I liked the Nasty Boys when I was little. I guess I just never realized the Nasty Boys ever was tag team champions.
This match showcased the Hart Foundation, specifically Bret Hart, being really well. I didn't see anything. The Nasty Boys were fine. I mean, I didn't see anything that made them special to me, but they weren't bad either. It was. I will say that I really liked Bret Hart in the interview. Definitely, I mean, head and shoulders over other interviews of the time. I mean, even, and he kind of held it back a little bit, but even like, the interview with, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, he's kind of started screaming, but they kind of like reeled it back. So it was still better than most people because he didn't just scream the whole time. But Bret Hart just, he just smooth on the mic,
Yeah.
Really good in the ring as well. And, yeah, I mean, this was a good match. This is the best match we've seen so far. I will definitely say that.
Yeah, I'd say this is just a little hair better than the Rockers match.
Yeah, yeah. And, the Nasty Boys, I was trying to come up with how I was going to defend them for beating, using the megaphone to cheat to win. I was going to do my shtick here, but, all I'm really going to say is sometimes you got to do anything you can to beat people as good as the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, and that's what they had to do, and like I said, it just kind of... Not a lot of this old pay-per-view watching surprises me because you kind of know most of the history and you kind of know who's been champion, who hasn't been. And it just kind of shocked me because I did not know they had ever been the tag team champions. And to do it on the grandest stage of them all was just kind of shocking.
Is this really the grandest stage yet?
It is. It's WrestleMania. So, I mean, this is their Super Bowl. So it just really was like, it was kind of entertaining to be shocked for once in one of these old pay-per-views.
I think to quote my brother, my friend, someone close to me, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Okay, well, let's keep it going then. Okay, so before the next match, they give us a video package showing some history between Jake the Snake Roberts and the model Rick Martel. It shows us the incidents where Rick Martel sprays arrogance in Jake the Snake's eyes, and just shows this feud and how it's built up. Then we get a Jake the Snake interview, and then it's on to the match. Jake the Snake Roberts versus the model Rick Martel in a blindfold match. And as much as I love Jake the Snake Roberts, most of this match was just kind of...
This was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate... Oh, first off, we got to talk about something. We got to bring something up. During the last match, we saw someone.
Yeah.
We saw a little celebrity.
Saw Macaulay Culkin out in the audience. Man, he looks younger than I remember.
Oh, I mean, he's pretty young in the first Home Alone.
Yeah,
he really is.
But yeah, he's out in the audience. So it was great to see him. This blindfold match was just a lot of them just getting close, trying to see each other or trying to reach each other, and it just a little bit went on for too long. And I mean, it is what it is. It's a blindfold match. It's supposed to be goofy.
I appreciate them trying to do something unique, but yeah, it's literally most of the matches Rick Martel waving his arm frantically like, where is he? I'm trying to find him. And then Jake the Snake, and it was kind of like, it was an audience participation match. I mean, I guess that's kind of cool. I guess. Because, like, Jake the Snake Roberts is, like, pointing his hands out, and the fans are, like, just kind of making noises and then start cheering when he points at Rick Martel so he can start going towards him. But, of course, most of the match, Rick Martel goes a little bit further, and he misses him. So, like, there was, like, maybe 5 moves altogether in this entire match, because most of it's just them trying to find each other.
Yeah, it's just not that entertaining of a match. The blindfold match concept just isn't great.
It just made for a boring match. I get what you were trying to do, and I get based on the storyline. By the way, we did get a pretty decent interview with Jake the Snake Roberts that I really liked, talking about how, I liked the interview until the match, because he's talking about how snakes have that sixth sense, and he's great in the dark. Jake the Snake Roberts was not great in the dark, so
no.
His pants were on fire.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because Jake is really cool, and this is his match at this WrestleMania, just kind of, and the fact that they fit that whole idea into the storyline, it's kind of cool.
I mean, I get why they did this match. It's just in execution, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out that, you know what? I'm normally not a huge supporter of PETA, but I would kind of agree with them on this. Like, he just tosses Damien out of that bag every time. Like this. Like, he just throws it on people. It's kind of, if you give a crap about animals, it's kind of shitty what they used to do with Damien.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, sure.
I mean, he just like starts putting them on on Rick Martel, and he just, he doesn't gingerly take that snake out. He like opens it up and just tosses him in the ring. I was just noticing that I kind of feel bad for that snake.
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll see what we have in store next. Okay, so they're backstage. What was the name of that woman?
Marla again? Marbles.
Marla
Mabels.
Marble, Mabel's.
It might be Mabel's.
Marbles.
It's eventually going to be Donald Trump's second wife.
Okay, but not yet.
No, this is 91. He gets married to her in 93.
Okay.
They might be dating right now. I don't know. Does Donald Trump date?
I don't know how that works. Anyhow, we get a backstage interview. She's interviewing the Nasty Boys, and they are celebrating in the locker room with Jimmy Hart and Dino Bravo and the Mountie.
And the Earthquake as well.
Was Earthquake back there too?
Yeah, Earthquake was. It was pretty much all the people Jimmy Hart manages.
Oh, okay. So they're all celebrating the tag team championship win. But after that, we get Jimmy Superfly Snuka. He's in the ring, and his opponent, the beginning of the streak, The Undertaker.
And we get Paul Bearer!
Yes, with Paul Bearer.
And not stupid-ass Brother Love.
So this was a pretty good match. I enjoyed this match very much. And he did something at the end with the Tombstone Piledriver that I don't even know if I've ever seen him do before, where he kind of picked him up somewhat sideways, but then kind of like shifted.
Shimmied him over.
Yeah, adjusted him while holding him upside down, and then dropped him for the Tombstone Piledriver, and then crossed his arms for the 1, 2, 3. He really looked menacing here. It was pretty good.
Yeah, this was straight up a squash match. Jimmy Superfly Snuka got a couple hits in, but you would have thought that this was a jobber he was facing. But he's facing a legend with Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and he just squashes him.
Yeah, but there it is, number 1 in the streak. Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
As far as squash match goes, it was fun to watch, mainly because it's really cool seeing old Undertaker, seeing Undertaker at the beginning. You know, it's really cool seeing this, and this is the first time, which I guess we've kind of seen him be pretty dominant, but he hasn't won anything yet. I mean, he won that Survivor Series match, but he was eliminated.
Right.
And this is just straight up him destroying Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. I can't wait to continue seeing the streak one by one. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think I knew Jimmy was his first defeat or first win of the streak, but I have no idea who's next. I don't know who he faces next WrestleMania, or the one after that, or whatever. And as I believe Boomer mentioned on his facts, or did he mention it on the facts or on the Undertaker Appreciation Show?
I don't know what you're about to say. So.
He was talking about how they didn't even know that he had a streak for quite a few matches.
It just kind of naturally happened.
Yeah, he just kind of won every WrestleMania, and they're like, oh, there's a streak involved.
Yeah. He did mention that, and I think it was during our podcast. But yeah, I guess it just kind of naturally happened. And then they didn't, I don't remember them making a big deal about it until later on, like, you know.
No, it was well into the 90s before I realized there was a streak involved.
I think it was even 2000s.
It might have even been 2000s before I even realized it.
Okay, so let's keep this going. Okay, so the next match is a career versus career match, and they say it is the first in WrestleMania history.
Well, it is definitely a WrestleMania, but I think they were saying that's the first time they've seen it happen
ever,
yeah.
In the WWF.
We've only had 7 WrestleManias. We haven't had a career versus career match.
Okay, so this match is, and there's some history, and I believe they showed us some footage of the history between these two before the match. They kind of set this up at, what was the last show we did? Survivor Series? No, Rumble.
Royal Rumble.
Yeah, they set this up at Rumble where Macho King interfered in the Ultimate Warrior's match with Sergeant Slaughter, and he lost the WWF Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
So now we have career versus career match. The Ultimate Warrior versus Macho King Randy Savage with Queen Sherry. And surprisingly, they show Miss Elizabeth is in the audience. So this match is, so far, I think, the best of the night. This was a phenomenal match.
No question. This is the first match I think that we've seen on our podcast when it comes to WrestleMania matches. This is the first one that felt like grandest stage of them all. A WrestleMania quality match. I mean, we had Ultimate Warrior taking 5 elbow drops off the top rope from Macho Man and kicking out of a pin. I didn't even think they did that back in these days. People kicking out of finishers like that. And then the Ultimate Warrior does his Gorilla Press Slam and then big splash on Macho Man, and Macho Man kicks out of that. Like, this had all the spots of a huge WrestleMania match. My only complaint, I don't like the end.
The problem with people kicking out of finishers is you got to find a different way to end it.
Yeah, but it ends with Ultimate Warrior doing a couple of flying shoulder blocks, and that's how he finally pins Macho Man.
Macho King.
Sorry, Macho King. But I think he's done with Macho King after this match.
Yeah, this was definitely the death of the Macho King thing, because after the match, Queen Sherry takes her frustration out on the Macho King, starts kicking him while he's down, and Miss Elizabeth comes in, grabs Queen Sherry by the hair and pulls her off of him and takes care of business there. And then you have a heartfelt moment where she is kind of comforting him, and obviously he is no longer the Macho King, he is the Macho Man now. And hoists her up on his shoulder like he usually does.
So here's my question, because when I was watching this, first off, I was very disappointed by this. And not so much about the match, because the match was really good. I was disappointed we might start losing Macho Man in our podcast for a little while. However, I'm kind of curious. Do you think that the end of the career is just Macho King, and next podcast or next show we watch, he'll be the Macho Man, so it's no longer his career that ended, it was just Macho King?
Well, I can tell you, based off of research and stuff that I already know ahead of time, he is in the next pay-per-view, which is SummerSlam, but he does not wrestle.
Do we get Macho Man on commentary?
Nope.
Because I'll tell you what, Macho Man on commentary would be fantastic.
We do get that eventually. I know when I was watching Raw, he was one of the commentators a lot of the times on Raw.
Oh, wow.
So yes, we do get Macho Man on commentary. But the next show, we get something else from him.
Interesting. Well, I'll be looking forward to that. I also want to point out that we no longer have, and I think he was only on like 1 or 2 matches, we no longer have Hacksaw Jim Duggan on the commentating. Now, he's been replaced by Bobby the Brain Heenan, who is a significant upgrade, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely flows a little bit better, and Bobby the Brain's another guy that I've heard on commentary quite a bit, later on. And so, yeah, that's kind of a natural fit for him. Why Hacksaw was out there for the first match was just kind of awkward.
I don't know.
Maybe Bobby the Brain... Well, I'm trying to remember. The first match was... Bobby the Brain was managing the first match.
Yeah, that's true.
He was the manager of Haku and the Barbarian.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might have just been out of necessity.
I mean, maybe they should just buy hire a commentator instead of, using wrestlers.
It seems like they're having a hard time replacing Jesse the Body Ventura, I guess.
I mean, Jesse the Body was pretty great.
Okay, so before the next match, we end up getting a slew of interviews. We have The Undertaker being interviewed by Regis Philbin, where they refuse to talk and basically just start measuring him for
a casket. Yeah,
a casket. Yes. So that was kind of weird.
So Regis,
it was a comedy segment between The Undertaker. Very odd, because this is early in his career. You would think they would be more worried about making him look menacing, and instead they do this comedy segment with him with Regis Philbin. So I thought that was kind of different.
The sad thing is he's measuring him for a casket for him to rest in peace, which Regis is now.
Come on, that was years later.
And you know what? I understand your concern about it being a comedy segment, but I don't feel like. Yeah, it was kind of funny, but I didn't feel like he was doing something super like he was measuring him to put him in a casket. So it was a little dark humor. So, I mean, I liked it.
Yeah, it was different. I was just surprised to see him in a comedy segment this early on. They're trying to still develop him as a
I think it
menace.
Worked for those characters, though. I don't feel like it wasn't like he was just dancing around being goofy or anything. They were doing something, a dark segment that worked with those characters. So I liked it.
So then the next interview had Alex Trebek interviewing Smash and Crush with Mr. Fuji, so Demolition. And that was, was what it was.
Yeah.
A lot of references to having all the answers, referring to Alex Trebek.
I like getting to hear Trebek talk.
So then we go back to Regis, and now he has to interview, and I'm going to try to get this right, because I've never heard of these two wrestlers ever in my life. Genkiru Tenryu and Koji Katao.
You just offended an entire country.
Well, I apologized before it started, and Regis once again tries to interview these guys, and they're not talking because they don't speak English. So then Regis starts saying some things that are like Toyota, and they're like, "Oh yeah."
Oh jeez,
stuff like that.
Let me warn everyone: when we get to their match, there's a lot of cringeworthy lines done during this match. But continue.
Yes. So then that interview was once again just a comedy setup. And then we have Jake the Snake Roberts being interviewed by Alex Trebek, where we learn that Alex Trebek is scared of snakes.
And Jake the Snake Roberts tells Alex Trebek that Damien is a huge fan of Jeopardy and would like to be on the show.
Yes. So then back to the ring, and we get Demolition versus Genkiru Tenryu and Koji Katao versus Demolition with Mr. Fuji. And at first this match appears that it's going to be a squash match with Demolition beating these guys. But then to my surprise, and just the biggest shock ever, the Katao and Tenryu ends up winning the match and beating Demolition. These are two guys I have never heard of in my life. They win the match. What is going on here?
We may never hear about them again. I don't know.
I mean, we may never see these wrestlers in another one of our shows, and they just won at WrestleMania.
Yeah, but then we have a lot of jokes from Bobby the Brain Heenan, where he's making fun of them and saying, at one time referred to Katao as the sound that it makes when he takes a dump. And Yeah, just constantly making fun of the fact that their names are foreign.
Yes. So, watch this one with caution.
Very cringeworthy.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of Heenan jokes that probably would not fly today.
Probably not.
Okay, so let's keep it rolling. Okay, so before the next match, we have an interview with the Big Boss Man. He is about to go one-on-one with Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental Championship. It was a decent interview. And then we have an interview with Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mr. Perfect addressing the same match. And once again, pretty good interviews. Nothing...
I would say it's a perfect interview.
Uh-huh. So, anyhow... So then the match, the two guys come out, and they actually both got their own entrances. This was...
the first time almost all these matches have had...
Somebody's already been in the ring.
Yeah, somebody's already in the ring.
So yeah, this match was a little different where they actually gave both men their own entrance. And I thought this was a really pretty good match. I mean, it had a lot of good spots, but then there was a lot going on later in the match. You had Andre the Giant come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of pointing his finger and stuff at Bobby the Brain Heenan, and then he grabs the Intercontinental Championship, and then eventually he just, while the ref's back is turned, he just kind of nonchalantly hits Mr. Perfect over the head with the Intercontinental Championship. And you think that Big Boss Man's about to win this match, but instead of him winning this match, more of Heenan's guys come out.
Heenan family.
I'm sorry, Heenan family members come out, and Haku and the Barbarian come out and attack Big Boss Man, and then all hell breaks loose. The match ends in a disqualification. Big Boss Man wins this match, but then you get to see a little bit of action from Andre, not a lot, like some slapping and throwing into the posts and stuff like that, but he doesn't do a lot. But they kind of fend off the Heenan family, and then they have themselves a little moment on their way down the aisle, kind of Andre holding Big Boss Man's hand up, almost like anointing him the new big man in the business or something. So this was kind of a really cool spot that I never knew existed.
Yeah. And I kind of forgot that the last time we saw Andre, Heenan's, was being a dick to him and screwed him over or was getting at. So this continues from the last time we saw Andre the Giant.
What I really kind of actually took away from this match, which I probably should have mentioned this on part one, and I didn't think about it mentioning this. Throughout WrestleMania, yeah, there's a lot of big matches that happen that's very memorable, but there's also something that's talked about in the business, saying, I want my WrestleMania moment. And so it's not just matches, but there's moments at WrestleMania. And everybody wants their WrestleMania moments. And this was really the first WrestleMania that I think we have covered that really kind of has emphasized twice already with WrestleMania moments, and that is Macho King losing and then Queen Elizabeth or Miss Elizabeth coming out, and that was kind of a WrestleMania moment that was kind of overshadowed the match. I mean, the match was great, but then they had this long segment afterwards.
I don't know if it overshadowed.
I don't know if it overshadowed. I might have used the wrong word there, but I'm just saying it was kind of great how they had this, as we now refer to as WrestleMania moments. And then this was another one where, yeah, the match ended in disqualification, but you had this moment with Big Boss Man and Andre the Giant. You had this other WrestleMania moment. So it's kind of neat seeing these early WrestleMania moments. I mean, I guess we could kind of go back, some of the other WrestleMania moments that we've seen already was like the body slam on Andre, but that was part of a match. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big moment.
Yeah.
But it was part of a match. It wasn't beyond a match. So it's just kind of neat to see some of these moments that we have seen. on this WrestleMania, and it's happened twice already on this show, and we still got, another hour or so to go to cover this show. So I just thought that was kind of neat, and I wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about how loving Mr. Perfect overselling moves. I mean,
yeah, very Shawn Michaels-esque.
Yeah, very flipping around a lot when he just gets his head thrown into a turnbuckle. I mean, a lot of fun spots from Mr. Perfect.
And I think Andre even gave him a slap on the outside, and he did like a flip. He didn't just fall down from So it was like his whole body flipped from a slap from Andre.
Yeah.
It's like... Mr. Perfect's great.
And I also want to say that, Andre the Giant was just trying to show Mr. Perfect, hey, see your Intercontinental Champion? And Mr. Perfect just kind of flew into that title. He didn't do anything wrong.
Fair enough. All right, so we'll keep it going. Mr. Perfect obviously retains the Intercontinental Championship because can't change hands on a disqualification. But this was a pretty good match, I thought.
It's a good...
it was a fun match.
It was a good match. I liked this match.
Okay. Okay, so the next thing we get is a bunch of celebrities out in the crowd that Mean Gene interviews. He starts with Donald Trump. He moves on with Chuck Norris, Henry Winkler, Lou Ferrigno, and was that it? Did I miss anybody?
Nope.
I think that was it. So anyhow, we get and you can tell there's kind of a celebrity section. And of course this WrestleMania, I don't even know if we've mentioned this, is in LA. So a lot of celebrities are in the audience. We saw Macaulay Culkin earlier.
But not in this, celebrity section. Apparently he's not a celebrity.
I guess not. Well, maybe his parents aren't celebrities, so he had to sit with his mom and dad. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
So maybe, who knows? So then the next match we get is Earthquake versus Greg the Hammer Valentine, and this was a quick. It wasn't quite a squash match because Greg the Hammer did get a few moves in here and there, but it was pretty much a squash match.
Yeah. Yeah.
Earthquake came out, pretty much dominated. He had a couple shots on him, but it wasn't much. And then Earthquake took care of business. This wasn't, there wasn't nothing bad, but there just wasn't enough really here that was special. It just kind of was there.
And I didn't get it either because I didn't even realize Greg was a face.
Yeah, so, the last
or maybe
several...
he's not, but I don't think Vince likes to do heel versus heel.
Not at this time, no, definitely. It's kind of weird because they've kind of been building Earthquake up to be kind of their big bad lately on all the shows we've been watching.
Yeah.
And then now it's just like, oh, you're just going to face Greg the Hammer Valentine and... that's going to be your position in this show. So he didn't really have a big feud with anybody of significance, really.
In fairness, he's been mostly around Hulk Hogan and feuding with him.
And he's kind of busy.
Hulk Hogan has
defending America.
Yeah, he's got to fight for America.
All right. Well, there's not much more to say about this match, and I guess we'll just continue on. Okay, so before the next match, we get an interview with Legion of Doom, Animal and Hawk, that lasts literally, and I'm not even joking about this, literally longer than the match.
Yeah. What a rush!
Yeah, we thought the Earthquake match was a squash match. This legitimately was a squash match. It was Legion of Doom versus Power and Glory, and literally it lasted 59 seconds. Yeah.
Which is kind of sad because...
I wanted to see more Legion of Doom.
Well, that too, but I was saying because I've actually enjoyed Power and Glory. Like, I thought they were going to be an interesting tag team, and then Legion of Doom just crushes them.
Yeah, they come out, and literally it probably took them longer to get down to the ring than it did to beat these guys, because it was just... awesome.
We got their finisher.
I can't really say it was a great match because it wasn't much of a match.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it wasn't. It was good for what it was, and then we got to see the Legion of Doom already like putting their hands on their waist. They're like, "We want the belts," doing that thing. Yeah, and we got to see their finisher, the clothesline off the top of the one of their shoulders.
So maybe SummerSlam we get Nasty Boys versus Legion of Doom?
That might be why Nasty Boys won, too.
Yeah, you don't want face versus face.
But you know what?
Oh, heaven forbid.
Oh my gosh. Heart Foundation versus Legion of Doom? Holy shit, would that be an amazing match. Think of that. I mean, Nasty Boys or whatever, but Legion of Doom versus Heart Foundation?
That would have been a great match.
That would have been so much. I
don't know if it ever happened. I'd have to look it up, but that'd be a great match.
I guess face versus face. You know what, Vince? Sometimes you just take two amazing teams and you just put them against each other. Don't care about whether it's face or heel.
You trying to persuade a guy 29 years ago?
Yeah. Come on, past Vince. You should have had the Nasty Boys win that title. Although, for all we know, something happens on Saturday night main event and Heart Foundation gets the title back. We don't know if they're going to face, and we don't know if they're going to get that title shot already.
It's hard to say. Okay, well, not much more to say about this one except how awesome it was. But like I said, it was kind of short and sweet and. I just love Legion of Doom.
I do too. I'm sad we didn't get more of them. I'm sad that they kind of just. I'm wondering if this squashes any hopes and dreams of Power and Glory after this. Like, are they going to be just resonated to Jobber tag now? I don't know.
Hard to say. Okay, so before the next match, we get a little history between the $1 Million Man and Virgil, showing his time as his bodyguard up until Virgil finally stands up to him at Royal Rumble and sets up this feud. So this feud has been set up perfectly and has been brewing for a while just because of the way $1 Million Man had been treating Virgil. So this was definitely a really good match to book at WrestleMania. Just this big of a build-up to a match like this. And it also shows in the segments that apparently Rowdy Piper has been helping Virgil get ready for this match. So he comes out, $1 Million Man comes out, then Rowdy Piper comes out in a crutch. And it turns out that they explained that apparently he was in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
So that is why Rowdy Piper is in a crutch. And then we get Virgil come out to a huge pop. I mean, the crowd was going crazy. So, I mean, you really look back at Virgil's career now and you kind of realize that, he was kind of more or less a jobber or mid-carder. But right after the $1 Million Man breakup, he was hot. And it's kind of sad that they wasn't able to capitalize on that and make him a top face in the company, because he had a huge pop when he came out to this match. And this was a pretty decent match. It was a pretty good match. A lot of Rowdy Piper stuff getting involved, not horribly, but like $1 Million Man attacking Rowdy and everything. And eventually it was $1 Million Man not being able to focus on Virgil and to deal with Rowdy, which ended this match in a countout, which is kind of an interesting way to end a WrestleMania match, but because of everything going on, it made sense.
Yeah, this match was more of a story match than a good match, which I enjoyed the story, so it was a good match, if that makes any sense. Yeah, Virgil was very hot, but I feel like Virgil's hotness, I don't know if that's the right way to put this, but I think Virgil getting over with the crowd so much has everything to do with how great $1 Million Man is as a villain. And I feel like their love for him is because of how much heat $1 Million Man gets. And the problem is you take Virgil out of the storyline of this. That's the problem. I don't think they were able to capitalize because the fans weren't cheering Virgil as much as they were going against $1 Million Man. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, but I'm just pointing out that he had a huge pop. I just think that if maybe they capitalized on it a little bit better after this feud, they could have, got something more out of Virgil instead of him just kind of being delegated to mid card and kind of becoming a jobber later down the road.
Yeah, but here's the problem. I mean, did you see anything in that match to make you say, man, Virgil's such a good wrestler or a good character in general?
Well, like I said, and then after the match, he has himself a WrestleMania moment where he, Rowdy Piper gets in the ring. Oh, and then we have Scary Sherry come back out, and it looks like she's found herself a new man since Macho King and her are done. So she comes out to help $1 Million Man, and then Rowdy Piper refuses help, doesn't want anybody to help him up, and then Virgil gets on the mic and like, hey, you picked me up, now you need to get up.
Yeah,
so that was kind of a cool little moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if they alluded to this with Scary Sherry coming out at all. Like, I remember wholeheartedly Sherry with $1 Million Man. I remember Virgil with $1 Million Man. I enjoyed both combinations. But her coming out randomly, it was kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did $1 Million Man ever have any interactions with Sherry before this?
I have no clue.
I mean, I know I remember liking the collaboration between the two, but there was really no explanation of why Sherry, other than, I'm done with Macho King. Ooh, there's another man. I mean, come on. It's kind of... It makes no sense. Unless there was something, and we only watch the pay-per-views, so it's very possible that maybe Macho Man and $1 Million Man work together, and so there's a little bit of a connection there. But yeah, it was kind of weird her just randomly showing up right after leaving Macho King. But yeah, I mean, this was a fun story match. It was great seeing Rowdy. He got to hobble and beat $1 Million Man with the cane. So I mean, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like this. It would just, might not have been the best match of the night, but definitely had a pretty good build-up and a good story to it, and they executed it pretty good. And I think, I don't really care for countouts all the time, but this one kind of made sense.
It makes sense. Not only it makes sense for a variety of reasons. One, like I said, I don't feel like Virgil really displayed anything that shows that he's a really good wrestler. He was a great manager and a great character for $1 Million Man, which, like I said, I think is the reason why he never took off after this, because once you take him out of the story, I don't see anybody really caring. He's not someone interesting. He's not very good in the ring. And so because of his lack of skill, him beating $1 Million Man with a count out makes a lot of sense. Not to mention, this keeps $1 Million Man from being, this keeps him as a strong, he didn't take a pin. He just got tricked into being counted out. So it keeps his, momentum of being a really good, strong heel. I liked the story they told. I think they did well with the limits they had, where earlier the Jake the Snake blindfold match, they had limits and they had it in a match and it didn't work out so well. I feel like the limits they had for this, with Virgil's lack of a skill, worked out with the way they did it.
Okay. All right. Well, I believe all we have left, I think, is the main event. I think that's. We'll see what else we get before the main event, but I think that's the last match. So
yeah. So we've got about 40 minutes of the show. So we've got probably about 5 minutes of interviews, a 10-minute match, and the rest of the time Hogan posing afterwards for America.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I'm sure Hogan posing is going to be the majority of what we have left.
But this time with a flag, so it's different.
Oh,
I'm guessing there'll be a flag involved after this match.
Oh, I guarantee it. Okay. So now we get a Sergeant Slaughter interview, and this was pretty good work. I mean, he's a really good, heel. And the way he talks on the mic and everything, it's pretty good. But then apparently I must have lied to the listeners because I thought the main event was coming up.
Well, we don't know, so I mean, that's
there was only a little over a half hour left. I just figured the match would be coming up now.
Well, in fairness, this match didn't take much of that.
No, this match was very quick.
In fact, we still have over a half hour left.
Yeah, so this match was very quick. It was the Mountie versus Tito Santana, and ends with the Mountie using a cattle prod to hit Tito Santana or shock him, and he gets the 1, 2, 3. Very short work. I just did not realize another match was coming up. I thought that was that interview with Sergeant Slaughter was leading up to the main event.
You say that with such disdain, Rage. Obviously, the Mountie thought he saw some cattle and needed his cattle rod. It's not his fault when he turned around. Yeah. It's not his fault when he turned around. Tito was just happened to be there. It was completely an accident.
Yeah, okay. I'd also like to point out that Jimmy Hart was in the corner of the Mountie and wearing a, pretty much essentially a similar Mountie outfit. And I'd like to point out that not only does Jimmy Hart come out and manage multiple wrestlers, but he changes his outfit to manage every wrestler. This dude changes his outfit during a WrestleMania show more than Reba McEntire at a concert.
He's like a chameleon manager. He changes his style to fit his, which I love, by the way.
I mean, when he brought out the Nasty Boys, he even had like a biker helmet on.
I mean, look at all these
crazy.
Look at all these other wrestlers that have, like Bobby the Brain Heenan or, Slick, who just have a crap load of people they manage, and they have their same character. Where Jimmy Hart, I mean, he's the same person, he's the same character, but he changes his look to fit the team. He had a Nasty Boys helmet on for the Nasty Boys match as well. So, I mean, I love that he is like a chameleon and just changes for his team. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It was just something I wanted to point out because it's pretty good stuff that he does this every show. Basically has a different outfit every show for all the different wrestlers he manages. And I just think it's really cool. I mean, the dude's probably got, if there was a physical Hall of Fame, which I've heard that WWE might be considering building a physical Hall of Fame, which is funny that I just read that recently during COVID. It's like out of all the times we would hear that they're going to build a physical Hall of Fame, they're talking about it during COVID. So maybe it was something already in the works.
They don't have house shows right now, so I mean, they have a lot more time on their hand right now,
I guess. But it's just kind of one of those things that would be a cool entrant if anybody is listening. To see the Hall of Jimmy Hart's outfits. I mean, it would fill up a whole room just of all these little, jackets he wore to the ring while managing all these different wrestlers. How cool would that be?
Yeah, no, I agree. It would be cool. And Jimmy Hart, I know I've complained a lot, and it's mostly been about Slick, let's be honest. But I've complained a lot about wrestlers or managers just managing everyone. Jimmy Hart, I believe, can be the exception to this because he does change his look for his team. I'm fine with Jimmy Hart, although I still prefer nowadays when you have one manager, or if you have one manager with multiple people, it's because they're all part of a team, you know. I definitely prefer that, but, you know, Jimmy Hart's the exception. And to a lesser extent, I like Bobby the Brain Heenan, but, you know, he's just really good. But he also puts everybody in his Bobby Heenan family. So he actually has a little, to him, they are a stable, even though they don't really stick together very often. But he does have a Heenan family.
Haku and the Barbarian come out and
that's
help,
true. That's true.
With that,
so we
Mr.
did get
Perfect.
a little bit of that.
So we did. All right. Okay, so after an interview with Hulk Hogan, which is a very obvious patriotic interview, we finally get the main event. Sergeant Slaughter versus Hulk Hogan for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. And this match was a lot of the story, but it was a good match. It wasn't. I mean, there wasn't botches or nothing, but it was just a good match. It wasn't a bad. I wouldn't call it a bad match. It was a lengthy match, actually, longer than I expected it to be. And my favorite part about this match is the way it ended. Which, granted, it ended the same way every Hogan match ends. But the difference is Sergeant Slaughter tried to drape the Iraqi flag over Hulk Hogan and pin him. Hogan kicks out of the pin, rips the flag, and then does his signature big boot and leg drop. So definitely, and this match was bloody. Hogan freaking was majorly bloody.
Yeah, they really liked in WrestleManias to make Hogan bleed, because he really bleeds, and it goes all over his blonde hair, what little bit left he has.
But yeah, this match was pretty bloody. Like I said, it wasn't a bad match. It was a decent match. I mean, there was better matches on the card, but for a Hogan match, I thought it was a pretty good one.
Yeah. I mean, it was fine. Kind of, if you look at it like it's the main event of WrestleMania, it's kind of not great.
But that's it, and of course he wins the match, and then he panders to the crowd for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. But this time it's a little bit better than This time it's a little bit better than most because he starts waving the flag around. So that's pretty fun that he has the patriotic thing going. At the end of the match, somebody just randomly hands him a flag, and he just starts waving it around along with his poses that he usually does. So, pretty good ending. Keep in mind, this is during a war, so it definitely a product of its time. So now that we have completed this, I suppose we should do what we do best and rank the matches, talk about what our best and worst are, and
get some boomer facts in there.
And then rank these WrestleManias. Favorite match of the night. Okay, so I think this one's kind of an easy one. Best match of the night has to go to the Ultimate Warrior defeating Macho King Randy Savage. I thought the match was great. The fact that it was career versus career, everything that went on after the match, I thought this was head over heels better than everything else on the card. I thought there was a couple other good matches, but this definitely stood out to me as the best match of the night.
Yeah, there really isn't a better option, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, I thought that match was one of the best matches we've watched on our podcast. So yes, it's definitely that one. But yeah, definitely the Macho Man versus Ultimate Warrior.
Okay.
worst match of the night.
Okay, so worst match of the night, I think, is pretty clear-cut. That blindfold match between Jake the Snake Roberts and the model Rick Martel was just doesn't do nothing for me. It just, you got two guys walking around the ring for 5 minutes, waving their arms around, trying to find each other. That's just not a good wrestling match, in my opinion. I've never really liked the concept of the blindfold match. It's silly, and this just did not work for me, and therefore it's definitely the worst match of the night for me.
Just curious, is there any other blindfold matches you recall seeing ever?
Yeah, but they're not on a pay-per-view like that. It's like NXT had just done it recently with
yeah, but then you say that
Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis, I think it was.
But didn't they have a strap? Like they were also connected by a strap?
Yeah, and then Cameron Grimes pulled his blindfold off for a little while. So, I mean, there was a little bit, it was more entertaining, but I still just don't care for the blindfold match. But I'm not saying there's a bunch of them around there. I'm just saying they're worthless. Don't ever do them again.
Agreed. I mean, it was definitely the worst match of the night at WrestleMania. Not a fan. Wasn't a fan of it. I liked the story leading up to it, and I understand why they did it, because it fit for the story, but it was just in execution, pretty bad. Wasn't a fan. There was just way too much slowdown with Jake the Snake Roberts just slowly pointing at, trying to get the crowd to, I mean, actually being a fan at the arena might have been kind of cool with it, because you got to help Jake the Snake Roberts find Rick Martel, but as a viewer at home on your couch, it was a boring match.
I completely agree.
Yeah, it was a pretty boring match. So, alright.
Okay, so this one's kind of odd one on where to place it. It's not going to go to the top, but it's not going to go to the bottom. I still think WrestleMania 3 reigns supreme as my number one. And this is where it kind of gets difficult. I think I'm going to keep WrestleMania 2 at my second ranked WrestleMania. But I actually am going to slide this into my third spot. I thought there was enough good in this WrestleMania to put this as my third favorite WrestleMania in my rankings. I do not think this was as bad of a WrestleMania as you think it is, and we'll see where your rankings are. But I actually really found a lot of good in this WrestleMania. Yeah, there was a couple lackluster matches, but this is the first one we've watched that really surprised me. And maybe it's just because I haven't seen it in so long. I didn't remember certain things, but Nasty Boys defeating the Hart Foundation for the title was just, I mean, that was crazy. I was not expecting that. I forgot that had happened. And the main event wasn't that bad. I thought it was pretty good. The whole America versus Iraqi Simba Third, that was pretty good. I thought the Virgil $1 Million Man match was pretty well built up and a very decent match. And then the Ultimate Warrior Randy Savage match, I personally think that might be the best WrestleMania match we've had since the Macho Man and the Dragon match in WrestleMania 2.
Yeah. I think I'm going with the similar. My rankings.
I'm not done.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was getting your opinion there. You know, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Macho Man.
It might be the best match that,
and that's part of the reason why number 2 is on that list as my number 2, because that was such a good match, and I really like the cage match with Hogan and King Kong Bundy in WrestleMania 2.
Yeah, no, Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon.
Yeah.
That was WrestleMania 3.
Was it WrestleMania 3?
That's why you have it as
that's why
1.
that's number 1.
Yeah.
Well, that also had Andre. So, yeah, okay. Well, I like the cage match. I'm getting my WrestleManias mixed up. So, I am going to put this at number 3. And then I'm going to put WrestleMania 4 at number 4. I'm going to put WrestleMania 6 at number 5. WrestleMania 5 at number 6. And then WrestleMania 1 down to WrestleMania, or is number 7.
Yeah, it's
so that's my rankings. And I apologize for the mix-up, but I did like WrestleMania 2 also. So I still think WrestleMania 2 is better than this one, but it was close.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with WrestleMania 3 being the best still. WrestleMania 2 staying at 2. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with this as WrestleMania 7 being 3. I just feel like because of how good that match was. Unfortunately for me, and yeah, there was a couple other high spots with the $1 Million Man and everything, but once again, I think this is better main event, I guess, than like WrestleMania 3 or 2, but that Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon just is such a good match. So this is going to be WrestleMania 7 as 3, WrestleMania 5 at 4, WrestleMania 6 at 5, WrestleMania 4 at 6, and WrestleMania 1. I don't think WrestleMania 1 is ever going to get out of that bottom spot.
Well, yeah, it'll take a lot we'll see what we have in store, but, it would definitely take a lot to move that. Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's about all we have for this, don't we?
Well, we should hear from Boomer and get his facts.
Well, there's that, yes.
So let's go ahead and go to Boomer Facts.
All right, Agent Blaze fans, welcome back to Boomer's Backstage Facts, this time about WrestleMania 7. This was actually one of my favorite WrestleManias, if nothing else, because of the storyline between Sergeant Slaughter and Hulk Hogan, which is what this one is really known for. I mentioned previously in my facts that this WrestleMania was originally supposed to take place at the Coliseum, but they relocated due to the fact that there were threats to Sergeant Slaughter's life due to this storyline with the Iraqi sympathist. It actually worked out well because I went back, I looked, and the weather that day in LA was 55 and rainy, so an outside probably wouldn't have worked out so well for these guys. So that's our first fact. It was just miserable weather that day, so by chance the choice to move worked out well. Another one interestingly, and it's with this controversy again, Bob Costas was originally supposed to take part, and he refused to be at this WrestleMania again because of the Desert Storm storyline. And it was a major thing, and again, this was back in the day before the kayfabe, so people really bought into this, and it was not a popular storyline. WrestleMania 7 was actually the last WrestleMania also for Marty Jannetty and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The interesting thing about it being Marty Jannetty's last one is Marty was actually playing, they were going to, spoiler alert into the future, but Shawn turns on Marty. They were going to drag that feud out for a year, and it was actually scheduled to be Shawn versus Marty at WrestleMania 8. But due to the fact that, we love you, Marty, but you're crazy, that never happened. Marty Jannetty would leave the company and get fired and rehired for several times after that. Jim Neidhart went on to, Bray went on a singles run. Jim Neidhart, was teamed with Owen, and there were plans for those guys too, but Jim Neidhart was actually fired for refusing to take a drug test. So those two guys moved on. Now, this is kind of interesting. 1991 was actually the first time there were 5 pay-per-views. Of course, they had the big 4 like always, and in 91 they added this Tuesday in Texas, which, by the way, Rage and Blaze, you better cover that pay-per-view. But in 1995, the British Bulldog and the Warlord actually faced each other on all 5 pay-per-views that year. They collided in the Royal Rumble. They were on opposite sides of the opening 6-man tag at SummerSlam. They were on opposite sides of the opening elimination match at the Survivor Series. And they had their singles match at WrestleMania and at this Tuesday in Texas. Now our next one is one of my personal favorite matches, and I haven't listened to the episode yet, just so you know, but Blaze had to have really enjoyed seeing the Macho Man Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior in the retirement match. This, without a doubt, and this is what I'm saying, folks, when you take, and I'm not knocking the Warrior, but we all know facts, Macho Man was one of the greatest wrestlers ever, and he made the Ultimate Warrior look like $1 million. But the interesting fact is, at the beginning of the, in late January 91, Savage had surgery to repair a broken wrist. So this was his first match back. And he really was planning on retiring. This was under work. Randy was ready to settle down with Elizabeth and have a real life. I'm sorry, I apologize. But here's the thing. At this time, Ultimate Warrior got fired this year after WrestleMania. Hogan's name was being dragged through the mud because of the steroids. So Vince needed some baby faces. At first, Macho Man said no. He did wrestle a few house shows. And I remember these are the old days. So when he was in these house shows, he wore a mask and he wrestled as Mr. Madness because the Macho Man had retired. I have to definitely look and see if you can find some video of that. But eventually Vince talked him into coming back in. This was also Demolition's last televised match. And it kind of upsets me. I think the way they should have done this is Legion of Doom should have faced Demolition. If you were just going to get rid of Demolition, all the stories you read still say the reason that this was the end of Demolition is because they brought in the Legion of Doom. And you couldn't have those two teams at the same time. Apparently, of course, Axe was already gone. So after this, Crush disappeared for about a year. Smash would start as a singles wrestler in the summer of 91 before he was turned into that lovely Repo Man. And of course, Crush came back as Crush, just with his Hawaiian gimmick. Another one was Paul Roma was scared by the Doomsday device, and I'm sure he wasn't the only one ever in the history. And actually, if you watch Legion of Doom matches, if they ever finish a match without using the Doomsday device, it just means the opponent didn't want to take it. And I don't know if I can blame him now. LOD was safe, but that move did look very devastating. I don't think I would have wanted to take it. And the final fact that is very interesting is before they brought Sergeant Slaughter back, they already planned on using this storyline of the Iraqi sympathizer, and the original person considered for this role was Tugboat. Yeah. You can hear this story over and over from Bruce Pritchard, and I think one of the funniest things about the fact it was going to be Tugboat is they were just going to call him Sheik Tugboat. So there you have it. There are Boomer's backstage facts about WrestleMania 7. If you'd like to, you can follow me on Facebook at Tim Boomer Chase. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, the Twitters. Check it out. I got a lot of projects in the works. And we will see you next time on Boomer's Backstage Facts. Back to you guys.
Okay, so that's all the time we got here. Hopefully everybody enjoyed WrestleMania 7 as much as we did. And this has been the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And good night from Rage's Pit. And here is your winners, and still podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, this is Blaze from the Rage and Blaze and the Boomer and Blaze Show. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.